Good evening and welcome to the broadcast of the Enid City Commission meeting. Broadcasting live in high definition from the council chambers at the City Administration Building located at 401 West Owen K. Garriott. Please stay tuned as Mayor Bill Shuey presides over the meeting.
We are all present this evening. Our invocation this evening will be given by Randy Mitchell. Randy is the senior minister at the First United Methodist Church. And our flag salute after that. Colonel Cunningham, would you lead us in the flag salute after the invocation? Thank you.
Mayor and Council, as always, thank you for your service to our community. Let us pray. God, we thank you for the day you've given us and for this community which we call home. We pray tonight for those who lead, pray for wisdom and unity, for the betterment of all of our citizens. We pray for our workers who work for this city, and the police and the fire and the public works and all the departments it takes, Lord, to make this city work. We ask your blessing on their jobs and on their lives. And Lord, we pray in a time of economic downturn for wisdom for those among us who are unemployed, who are struggling with underemployment. Lord, we pray for economic development. But in all the things, Lord, that make this a good place to be, we give you our thanks. Now this night we give to you with gratitude. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4, consider approval of minutes of the regular commission meeting of February the 2nd, 2016.
So moved.
Second. Motion by David, second by Ron. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Under item 5, awards, presentations, proclamations, and organizational business. Item 5.1, present the pet available for adoption at the city animal shelter.
Black dog tonight.
Gene Robertson with Enid Animal Control. What I brought here tonight is about a 6-month-old.
If you would, use the microphone, please.
About a 6-month-old Schnauzer mix. It's a little male. I've named him Mickey. He needs a good home. He becomes available tomorrow. So if anybody's interested, they can come out and adopt him. We have quite a few out there that needs homes. Our hours are from 10 to 6, Monday through Friday, 12 to 3 on Saturday and Sunday.
Thank you.
He's nice looking, yeah.
Item 2, item 5.2, legislative affairs update by Kurt Rogo. Kurt?
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Right on it. Session started just a couple of weeks ago, February 1st, with the State of the State, and obviously with all the headlines you've seen, the budget, again, I've said this for years, but this year, really, the budget is the centerpiece of this year's legislative affairs. The budget shortfall is now $1.3 billion. Just a few weeks ago, they were working off of 900 million, but that increased since then. And it is the largest shortfall in state's history. That's what makes it so problematic, and we got some real problems ahead of us. Budget methods that the legislature will be looking at is agency reductions, probably more than 10%. Raid the revolving funds, which agency directors and personnel just love to hate, I guess. Bonding is probably a newer topic that's being talked about, the bonding of transportation funds. Setting up a bond and giving that to the Department of Transportation and taking that money and pushing it back into general revenue and trying to balance the budget that way. Raised tobacco tax hadn't been talked about in a number of years, but Governor Fallon brought that up in her State of the State. Very bold of her to do that. And also the last two items, removing some sales tax exemptions, which I'll talk about in just a minute, and a potential tax on services. And she boldly recommended those tax issues in her State of the State, which is not typical for a governor to do, but they're in a tight spot, very tight spot. Sales tax exemptions, according to the governor, there's over $8 billion of sales tax exemptions that the state puts on a list out there. And she is recommending that we take 200 million of that and look at some of those sales tax exemptions and feed the state's general revenue with those exemptions. Now, the good side of that is that helps our cities as well. And you know, there's a number of cities across the state that when the state revenue goes down, they kind of shadow in that a little bit. Maybe you've noticed your numbers as well. So that can be good for the city of Enid and other municipalities. She's using our surrounding states as an example. Surrounding states charge sales tax on 143 exemptions that Oklahoma does not. And she's going to be targeting those. And here's some examples. And by the way, I'm going to provide you within a week here a list of all 143 that she's looking at. But it covers things like real estate transactions, storage, private detectives, janitorial supplies, things of that nature. The other category that the governor is looking at, and legislators, I might throw in there, not just her, but there are 40 services. There's a difference between sales tax exemptions, a list of those, and then there's services that are provided in the way of labor, where there are 40 services where the majority of surrounding states, at least 4 of our surrounding states, already have sales tax on something that Oklahoma does not. Things like boat marinas, repairs, aircraft rentals, welding labor, industrial water use. The list goes up to 40, but I have not seen that particular list, but I'll find that for you. I do have the list of the 143. It's very interesting to look at and see where some of the arguments are going to be, of which healthcare is including in some of those exemptions. So here's the bill that will be the vehicle for that particular issue on sales tax by Senator Jolly. He's the Appropriations and Budget Chairman in the Senate. And here's how they'll look at this issue. They will find some exemptions that they can take off the exemption list to increase the sales tax base. But in return, they will, item number 2 there, reduce the sales tax from 4.5 down to 3.75. That's just a recommendation. That's just how the bill is written today. But that's the only way they're going to get an issue like this pushed forward, is to lower the state sales tax and spread out the exemption list. And they would begin that, according to that bill, the levy on those sales tax beginning January 1st, 2017. Not during the fiscal year of the state, which would be July 1, according to this legislation. But again, that's just how the bill is written today. That could all change if it's considered. Another issue that popped up and has been disposed of as lately, and that's House Bill 2310, an increase in county sales tax levy. And I just took some portions of the actual language there on the item number 2, and that's how they do it in the law there. Right now, counties can charge up to 2%, and they were going to raise that to 3.5. And I expressed some concern with one of the, or some of the committee members, more than one, that, you know, cities typically stay in the sales tax world, and counties typically stay in the ad valorem world, and everybody seems to get along with their particular governments. And that was recognized. It failed in House Committee this week. I really don't look for this issue to come back up. It wasn't necessarily an issue that was promoted by the State Association of County Commissioners or any of those statewide county organizations. It was more of a local issue that was brought up to a local legislator, and that's where it began, and that's where it ended. Pardon the small print. I was trying to find some examples there, but I want to talk about incentives and tax credits just a little bit. Given the budget shortfall, the legislature is really cracking down on any incentive that's out there. Even the Quality Jobs Program is coming under fire here and there. And I'm hearing rumblings about, and that's one of the crown jewels of our incentives for the state, and I think Mr. Kissling could tell you that. But if there's one bill at the Capitol that is the most disliked, I hate to use the word hate, hate's a big word, but probably the most disliked incentive bill that's out there right now is Senate Bill 977. And you're going to see that bill in the paper a lot. And that creates what he calls the Fiscal Responsibility Moratorium Act, which places a temporary moratorium on a multitude of tax credits beginning July 1st. And ending July 1st, 2018. So it's a 2-year moratorium. There's more than what's listed there, but I wanted to give you an example. It's pretty much everything from new jobs, energy, including wind, oil, biomedical research, new jobs tax credit, a lot of different tax credits that we use to attract business to our state is coming under fire. And this particular bill puts a moratorium on every tax credit that's offered in the state. And you know, tax credits have been scrutinized here for the last few years, so it's pretty tense. I've already heard from a lot of big companies out there how much they dislike this bill. Public finance transactions. This was actually brought to my attention by your city manager, and of course OML had it on their list as well. And that's Senate Bill 1315 by Senator Burkeen. Requires municipalities and school districts to bid professional services in connection with your public finance transactions. To the extent that the low bid is not selected, written justification to the state board or the state bond advisor and the state auditor is required. Basically, getting in the way of your decision to make financial decisions right here with who you bond with and the financial decisions that come with that. And the state is obviously overstepping here. This was referred to the Senate Finance Committee. Next week is the last week for committee hearings. I've not seen this scheduled yet. Of course, that schedule could come out as late as Monday, or they could add it that day, but Tuesday, I think, is the last day for Senate Finance to come together. I think they've received a lot of complaints about this particular piece of legislation, or at least the chairman has, and so we'll see if he hears it or not. 911 services. If you recall from years past, I've brought this issue up with our 911 system across the state. It's not consistent, it's not well funded, there's different funding sources all across the state. I think the city of Enid contributes a good around $100,000 to our 911 system here locally that feeds a couple counties. This issue's been at the Capitol to raise these fees for about 2 or 3 years now, pretty strong. And I can tell you, I actually heard this bill being proposed in committee last week, and I feel like it has legs. I think they've done a lot of work behind the scenes. I can tell that the author has put a lot of his own time into it. And what they're going to do is create the Oklahoma 911 Management Authority Act, which mandates the Oklahoma Department of Emergency Management to provide the legal, administrative, all the fiscal staff, and be that support group as a statewide entity. And then beginning January 1st, 2017, they're going to impose a monthly 911 telephone fee of 75 cents on each wireless telephone and mobile phones for 911. that have 911 capabilities, which is every mobile phone for that matter. Right now, that fee, I think, is at 50 cents. They discussed, I think, a year ago going to $1, $1.25. They finally put enough work into this. They knew they needed a fee increase, but they've just increased it 25 cents. Now, I think that's reasonable. It was overwhelming support in committee. I had to stand up in that particular committee because all the seats were taken with emergency personnel. A lot of support statewide for this bill. So Mike Konigsberg, if he's still in here, I think this is going to sail. So keep an eye on House Bill 3126. Water. I ran into the director of the Oklahoma Water Resource Board the other day and noted to him that the number of water bills are down, and he agreed, which is good news for him. Just a few years ago, we had over 80 bills tagged that were water issues. That's when they had the statewide water plan. Now there's not really that many, but water is still a very important issue to the state. I have two bills here that I thought were worthy of mentioning because House Bill 3003 requiring water wells to be metered, now I'm seeing that as a perennial issue that's popping up at the Capitol now. Cities already meter your wells, but I think this is being targeted to other large water users, perhaps the agriculture community. And in other states, they do metering of their wells. So when I see perennial issues like that pop up year after year, they get louder. And so it's just worthy of keeping an eye on. The next one, Senate Bill 878, creating the Oklahoma Water Sustainability Act, is obviously a recommendation from the Oklahoma Water Resources Board. And there's, I tagged it because it's authorizing the Water Resources Board to assist in the development of regional water plans and projects. And there's more language that follows, but I want to circle back around with the Water Board and see how that can connect to our Northwest Water Plan and how that can be helpful. So that's the reason I tagged that. Important dates coming up. February 25th is next week, and that's when this first series of committee deadlines is over with, and bills start to die on their own. The first 6 weeks are just always brutal at the Capitol, first 4 in particular. February 28th, we have the Speaker's Ball. First time it's ever been held outside of Oklahoma City. I know a lot of locals are very happy about that. I think the attendance is going to be great. I think Speaker Hickman is pleased at this point, and so we're going to have a great showing there and be able to show off our city to people who wouldn't otherwise show up. And then March 10th is that 6-week deadline that I talked about, which everybody, every session really tries to get past because the first weeks are just pretty brutal. So, any questions? I just hit a few items.
Question.
Sure.
How does the moratorium bill affect Enid, Oklahoma?
Well, to the city, probably not so much, but to your economic development arm, you're taking away a serious tool. You're taking away a tool from the state. It's not necessarily a tool away from Enid. You know, being able to champion some of those tax credits to attract certain industries here is a big deal, and you know, I'm concerned about the incentives being under fire, and it goes along with saying that the Quality Jobs Program. You know, I feel like they're starting to take some hits at that, and you know, those programs cost little money. And during a tight budget year, that's what you do. You scrutinize those projects. So.
How much of that $8 million is?
$8 billion on the sales tax?
Yeah, how much of that $8 billion is done by the state of Oklahoma itself and not towns and cities?
That's a good question. I don't know if the figure she was referencing was state revenue only. I'm going to guess it was state revenue that she was.
To me, it would have to be because outside of Tulsa and Oklahoma City, that wouldn't be $8 billion in my mind.
Yeah.
And I know the state can issue those. $8 billion is a lot of money. Short 1.3 billion.
But keep in mind, if they do take off some of those exemptions, for every exemption that gets removed, the city that's already written in statute gets to charge that same tax.
Say that again.
If there's let's say a tax on services that's not collected right now because the state doesn't require it, then all of a sudden there's a sales tax for that certain labor or exemption, a state sales tax for the state. It's already written in statute right now that as a city, you can charge that same tax on services.
That moratorium one, that's gonna impact a lot of Oklahoma families on the earned income credit, tax credit. It's probably the
Yes.
majority of Oklahoma
Yes,
families.
that would be
are
on the
gonna be
list.
affected by that.
There's low-income housing tax credit, which we just got through taking advantage of here in the city of Enid. There's,
Well, the low-income housing tax credit is a pass-through from federal grant.
state portion in that? No, Kissling not in here. I want
OFUM
to say,
administers it, but I think that's primarily.
there was
federal
probably a
money.
federal, but there's a state portion as well. That's a good question. But there's a lot of tax credits out there that are, going to be scrutinized. All
I
right.
know Caldwell has a bill about dealing with Norse. I think Anderson also has something out
Yes.
there. Where's that sitting at this point?
Well, part of the discussion on that, they do have some legislation to, in case we need it, dealing with whatever happens to the property there at Norse. And, of course, I don't think there's not going to be any decisions made probably this spring in the heat of the battle, legislative battle. And given what's already written I think they have like 4 different ways they can liquidate their property. And I think we fall under one of those categories if, say, the city were to buy it or some public entity, or they could just auction it off to the public. And so I don't think there's going to be any special legislation needed. Now, if we get to a certain point in some kind of transaction and we have to circle back around next year, sure. But I'm under the impression we may not need it. But Anderson and Caldwell told me that they were going to file something just in case we needed something.
Okay, thanks.
I know that Preston Dorflinger there at the OEMS would probably let us know right away if that's something he wanted to deal with.
Further questions?
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Item 5.3, consider appointment to the Fire Civil Service Commission. Joan, is that you?
That's me. Mayor and Commissioners, this vacancy is due to the resignation of Mr. Corbin Baker as Secretary to the Fire Civil Service Commission. And per the city's charter, this vacancy must be filled by a member of the Enid Fire Department. We have received 1 application, and that is from Mr. Mike Schatz. And you each have had a copy of his application in your packets. If approved, Mr. Schatz will fill the unexpired term of Mr. Baker to May 19th of 2020.
I'll make a motion to approve Mr. Schatz.
Motion by Ron,
Second.
second by Rodney. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Under item 6, hearings, item 6.1, consider a hearing to close a portion of a 20-foot utility easement located at 4406 West Owen K. Garriott Road, lying in the southeast quarter of Section 10, Township 22 North, Range 7 West of the Indian Meridian, Garfield County, Oklahoma. Robert?
Mayor, Commissioner, City Manager, this is a public hearing on the closing of a 20-foot utility easement in the 4400 block of West Owen K. Garriott. We have a map here showing the location. The location is actually at what's known as the old Walmart site. It's being redeveloped. There is a existing 20-foot easement that's been requested to be closed across the north portion, as shown on the map here. There's no utilities in the easement. It's really unclear why the easement exists. There's no record of why it was developed. but it does take a public action to close it. This is the hearing part of the process to see if anyone has a reason to protest. The follow-up item will be on 8.1, which is the actual ordinance to close it. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7, community development. Item 7.1, consider a sidewalk variance for Merlin Nightingale, Enid Tile and Marble, located at 1709 West Garriott, described as the north 280 feet of east, 12 rods, 198 feet of the northwest quarter of Section 12, Township 22 North, Range 7 West of the Indian Meridian, Garfield County, Oklahoma, except the north 30 feet to the city. And I would make a motion that we consider the sidewalk variance as it is printed.
Second?
I made the motion, Ron made the second. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion is defeated 4-3. Item 7.2. Consider a sidewalk variance for Kevin Curtright Honda, located at 4618 West Owen K. Garriott, described as part of Lot 32, Block 1, subdivision of the southwest quarter of Section 10, Township 22 North, Range 7 West of the Indian Meridian, Garfield County, Oklahoma. And I would make the motion to approve the variance as written and approved by the Metropolitan Area Planning Committee.
Second?
Motion by Ron. No, I'm sorry, I made the motion, second by Ron. We do have a person signed up to speak on item 7.2. Kevin Curtright, we need your name and your address, please.
Kevin Curtright, 1814 Quillwood Drive, Enid. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilman. 3 weeks ago, the MAPC met and discussed at length the sidewalk proposal for my property on Garriott and West Brow. Their conclusion was a unanimous vote to approve the variance. I'm here tonight to ask the Commission to follow their lead with a yes vote for the following reasons. One of the issues is water that flows from the detention pond from the north. I know I've talked about this before, but I don't think you guys have ever really seen the amount of water that flows through this ditch. So I have pictures I'm going to show you. The first two pictures are the ones I want you to look at, photo 1 and photo 2. They were taken by a friend of mine who was in the hotel while I was gone one weekend. This is last spring. And she called me in an emergency thinking my dealership was going to flood because it was all the way up to the sidewalk. The northwest corner of my building is the first picture you're looking at of the white building, of the very first picture. From the water stretching across there is 50 feet, and it ranges anywhere from 3.5 to 4 feet deep going across. It's a lot of water. The second picture shows how full the retention pond is, and luckily it quit raining. I don't know if it would have flooded any more than that. The detention pond does a good job of pumping the water out like it's supposed to, but it does get high. I don't have pictures of the front where the sidewalk is supposed to be, but I am telling you right now, it will be underwater. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I've seen it when it rains. I've seen what it does. It's not all the time, but it will go underwater. And again, it's going to get silted. It's going to get dirty. It's going to look bad. The next thing is, if a sidewalk is constructed, in my opinion, it will be a sidewalk to nowhere. There's not one to the east. I own the property to the east. It's a car lot. That's all it will ever be, is a car lot. I bought it specifically for my used car inventory because I had no room on the existing property that I have now. The Holiday Inn, a tornado would have to take it out or it burned to the ground before you'll see a sidewalk there, because the way the ordinance is wrote, 680 feet, they would have to add to the hotel in order to get the variance to kick in to put a sidewalk across there. So again, I'm going to have a strip of concrete going across with nothing else around me. I realize that some of the other buildings, the other businesses have already put sidewalks in, and I commend them for that. I'm not anti-sidewalk. The West Brow Street goes straight back to the detention pond. The city has their own do not trespass sign on it. I have one on my side. I don't want anybody back there either. It goes to nowhere. It just goes back to the detention pond. and nobody has any business being back there anyway. If they are back there, they're up to no good. The last and most important thing I have is that I do have a site plan and permits from the city that were approved. The city has already admitted that they made a mistake and dropped the ball in this matter. I do not feel it's right for you to tell me that I have to construct sidewalks after receiving site plans and permits. Budgets were looked at, bids were taken, and a loan has already been made. This money is not appropriated for my construction loan. Honda determines what I have to do for a lot of my building, and there have been a lot of changes that have happened in the course. When I originally filed my plans for the dealership, it was back in 2008. And the plans have only varied in the fact that I decided to close in the area on the east where we extended the wall out. Honda required me to build it out and build it higher so we could have the window height and have a wall across there so the Honda emblems would be on the building where they're supposed to be and where they're at right now. We're getting close to being finished. So while we were in the process of doing this, we thought, well, wouldn't it be nice to close the building in and have it warm in the wintertime when someone picks their car up, or air conditioned in the summertime? So the ordinance at 680 feet kicks in because I added 800 feet to the building. The Ponca City store just finished their Honda store, and they have a single car, which is what I would have originally done, but we thought we would make it a 2-car garage so we could display one at night and then deliver the cars on the other side so we would have enough room in there. So we increased the size of it a little bit. The beef I have with it, and I think all of you as council members can relate to this, including you, Ben, I was not told about any of this. I was not given the option to add or subtract. Had I known about this, I could have reduced the building. I could have made it smaller, and it would not have been the size that it is, and this would not even be an issue, and I wouldn't even be here talking to you about this right now. I would not have done it. It would have been a single car and single car only. I feel like to be forced to pay for concretes when I was not given the opportunity or told about it till 30 days of my completion does not give me adequate time. It didn't give me the resources. I will be scrambling for the money to pay for it. I know everybody thinks car dealers make tons of money. Everything we have is financed, guys. Cars, new cars, they're all financed by a bank. I pay a ton of interest. I've tried to better the looks of my building to help the town of Enid. It's going to be the best looking building on ONK when it's done. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
I would encourage the commission to vote no on the current motion made by the mayor and come back and grant a partial variance to only allow the sidewalk along the ONK Garriott frontage in line with the other sidewalks being put in place. We have a motion on the table, but assuming this is
So
defeated.
along with my motion to grant the variance.
Mayor, I would like to make one comment too. I opposed this sort of sidewalk construction when we discussed the passage of the ordinance here last meeting. And to me, anytime you've got a gigantic slab of concrete in front of a building that goes almost to the street, what is the purpose of putting a sidewalk in front of that? I mean, to me, it doesn't make any sense. If we wanted to put a trail down Garriott Road, I would be 100% in favor of the city building a trail down Garriott Road that could be used, for bicycles and pedestrian traffic. But to put, little slabs of sidewalk here and there in front of large slabs of concrete, to me, is just, it's a ridiculous concept and a waste of the business's money.
I'd like to, from a procedural standpoint, along Ben's lines, would it not be correct for me to make a motion to amend the mayor's motion to include granting the variance for the portion except for Garriott? I believe under Robert's rules that would be an appropriate motion. We vote on that. If it fails, then it's back to the original motion. If it passed, then it's a new motion to be voted on again. Is that correct, Andrew?
I think so too, but you still need a second on yours.
Andrea, speak up a little, please.
Yes, I agreed with Dr. B, but he still needs a second on his.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
A couple of things.
Okay.
First off, I think we're gonna have to bite the bullet on our city staff not doing their job. Second, all the water issues, and asking the city, how's this gonna work at the corner at the end there with the culvert and stuff? Is this sidewalk gonna stop before it gets to the street? How's it supposed to be on that east end?
I presume you're talking about the east end?
Yeah, in front.
Yes, it would be my recommendation that instead of trying to get that sidewalk all the way to the entrance onto 412, to go ahead and turn it back to the north and just end it at his driveway. The expense of making that connection and then the added expense of trying to make the transition across the driveway or the road, that's really a public road, so it kind of belongs to us. So
if we don't wanna pay for it, why should we have to ask him to pay for his?
We being,
City.
and there will be some additional expense, big expense.
and we'll pick it up when we come back and do sidewalks. We're ready to do our part of that. That approach will have to be reworked significantly, simply because of the cross slopes. And it's a public road.
I will say that, to clarify that, I thought that was really the proposal on the table, that your engineering design did not include crossing the culvert. So my modification of the motion would include the assumption that we're not requiring crossover to turn back to the driveway as you suggested.
And I again second that.
Please bring up the previous slide.
That is a much less expensive and better solution that you've come up with.
Yes, be sure and speak into the microphone.
Absolutely, sir. On this end of the property line, getting across the culvert and
I
up
think you have
on
another slide that has it zoomed in a little bit. There you go.
this one, getting up this slope and across this drive, which is a public road, I went out and looked at it. It will require a significant amount of work and probably a lot of expense as well. And then getting across that road would require that we rework the surface of that road to get the cross slopes correct for compliance. It would be easy, relatively easy, to turn the sidewalk north right about here and end it at this driveway. So you would obviously end it before you ran off into the drainage ditch over here, like we did on Zales and the dental shop.
Aspen.
Is that expense an expense of the city or Cartwright Hall?
Which one, sir?
What you're talking about, moving that to the north?
Fixing this road or moving it to the north? You got to end the sidewalk somewhere.
Any of the sidewalk would be an expense for Cartwright Honda. What he's talking about, doing the road would be our expense.
The road would definitely be our expense.
I think what he's indicating, Mr. Mayor, is that this is a simpler and more affordable way to accomplish effectively the same thing.
That being said, an engineer can build anything with enough money.
Well, if you want, we can design something to get up that culvert and on top of that road and fix that road, but that's not really what I was asked to do. I was asked to do an evaluation on the feasibility of the sidewalk order. And
Chris,
in this particular application, yes,
Chris,
sir.
on this sidewalk going in front, how's that? Is that gonna be a lot of dirt work to let, sidewalk have to run flush with the road, or is that could be on an angle on the side of the hill?
There would be a relatively small amount of dirt work to what we've seen in past in other places. For example, we built a restroom over at Exchange Park.
No, but I'm saying this ditch here, what kind of angle is it on?
You want to show that picture of the actual footage of the ditch right there?
We're gonna put a sidewalk down there?
Where would the sidewalk?
Yeah, the sidewalk would be up in this area, is where you'd end up putting it, as long as it's on the right of way, as far away from the road as you can. There are a couple, obviously, utilities in there that would have to be dealt with.
Will that not act as another dam?
No, we'd reslope that ditch just a little bit. That's
are you
a
gonna-
very, very gradual slope compared to some of the ditches we have, sir.
Are you gonna build a sidewalk level or with a
Yes, sir.
slope?
Yes, sir.
I think it's gonna be more of a dam than a slope. Unless you dig
We
it
would,
out.
we would, sir?
Unless you dig it out to level it.
We would have to worry about what the sidewalk does down here on this end, because that is one of our stormwater drainage channels. And we have to be very cautious that we don't obstruct it. But along this frontage, build it up and it's a gradual slope, you slope it back.
To me, that's not a good deal for the city.
That's not my part of this game.
Well, let's vote on it and,
Chris.
and move on.
So we
Hang on.
clarified the first thing we're voting on.
Pardon me?
Someone clarified the first thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask her to reread it, Tammy. Please reread the motion, or the amendment. David, she didn't get it all.
Okay.
Fire again.
My motion is to amend your motion to approve the complete variance, to state that we will grant the variance for the portion that goes down the side street, but not the portion across Garriott.
Okay, so if we vote yes on this, then we still have to vote again.
Correct.
Got it? Is that right, Andrea? So
We're
we
gonna
vote
have to vote
yes
again
on
either way.
this. We vote yes on this, then the next vote will be approving a partial variance.
Correct.
Right?
So if we vote yes on this, it's in favor of the amendment.
Yes.
Yes.
The amendment only.
Yes.
Just the amendment. And then we will still vote again to actually approve the variance or not. Does that make sense, Linda?
We're gonna vote again anyway.
Yes, no matter what, you're voting twice.
Okay,
So if we vote no,
still gotta vote
If you
again.
we go
vote
to
no,
the original motion that I made.
yes,
Correct.
correct.
Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion is defeated 5-2. Now, would you read, well, I read the motion for item 7.2 to approve the variance.
Mayor, I'm sorry, but I didn't get a chance to speak earlier, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Rodney, you touched on it, and the sidewalk issue, we all agree is the biggest pain that we've seen as a commission, as a team up here. Gerald, Rodney's right. This shouldn't have happened. And I think that I would be more inclined to vote in favor of forcing a sidewalk if staff had taken care of this appropriately. Because he was notified at such a late date, I don't feel comfortable with that. So,
Don't forget that that happened 8 years ago.
I agree with you, Commissioner.
I wasn't on the commission 8 years ago.
No one up here was.
But
In all fairness to
I
Gerald.
think it's worthy of noting. And, I know that you guys have more to do than probably anyone would want or can handle, but these kinds of issues do cause a problem for us as we're trying to make decisions.
That's why people think things are unfair.
Vote to approve the variance. We're back to my motion of item 7.2. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-2. Item 8, administration. Item 8.1, consider an ordinance closing a portion of a 20-foot utility easement located at 4406 West Owen K. Garriott Road, lying in the southeast corner of Section 10, Township 22 North, Range 70 West of the Indian Meridian, Garfield County, Oklahoma.
Move to approve.
Second. Motion by Ben, second by Rodney. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 8.2, consider the planned location of raw water intake at Call Lake to assess water in the lake and take any necessary action. Project number is W-1412.
Thank you, sir. Once again, we're here to discuss Call Lake, particularly the intake. As we talked about in study session, we had looked at 5 locations. 2 of them didn't pan out to start with. Then we looked at 3 within the lake. Item 1 was off the reservoir, and that really is not feasible for us in terms of schedule risk and cost risk. And so we evaluated the other 2 based on these non-monetary criteria, and from that, we came and selected Site 2 as where we would like to put the intake. A little bit of a side note, the Army Corps of Engineers considers this location to be a minor level permitting for a 408. Once again, a 408 permit is where a non-federal agency makes a modification to a federal project or a federal piece of property. Their review time is roughly 9 to 18 months. It will require 60% level design review or designs for them to review. They felt very comfortable about this one. And additionally, they also mentioned that once we get our permits, 404 permit being the compliance with environmental, and the 408 obviously modification, and our storage contract leases will be available, so it really kind of wraps the whole thing up into a nice ball for us. And it's our recommendation that you approve this location number 2 for our intake, and once approved, we'll continue our design and permitting activities.
Does that,
sir?
Does that go to the city of Enid then to take care of the permitting with the Corps of Engineers and not Garver? Because they've got one.
Garver will help me prepare the design material.
They have a 12-month contract?
Their 12-month contract, yes. Their 12-month contract is to do the 10% design, of which to have a package that is acceptable to the Corps of Engineers for a storage contract.
Okay.
And we expect that we will make that within the 12 months. So we will have a package available to get the storage contract. Once we do the design work on the intake, we'll submit those designs with an application to get a 408 permit.
When does their contract expire, Chris?
Their current contract expires 1 July.
You don't see any problems with that?
We won't get to the 60% design, but we will get to the point where the Corps will consider our application acceptable.
The permit?
For a storage contract. We literally have a lot of balls in the air for this particular part. We have to have a storage contract, and we have to do that within 2 years, according to the Oklahoma Water Resource Board, to help solidify our water rights.
Storage contract has nothing to do with how much water we pump out of there?
The storage contract is a contract where we purchase storage capacity. It's a one-time fee in the lake.
For later use?
For later use.
Time frame on that?
The time frame comes from the Oklahoma Water Resource Board, which basically says that we are supposed to perfect our water rights, which is use our annual projected requirement within the first 7 years. And we will do that based on a schedule of use, which we submitted to them. Okay. And according to the schedule of use, which was with our request for water rights, the first level will be approximately 12 million gallons a day of water, which we see as quite easily attainable.
Take some heat off of the wells.
A significant amount of pressure off the aquifer, sir. Okay?
Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this location.
Second.
We have a motion by Ron, a second by Rodney. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 8.3, consider a resolution adopting the multi-hazard mitigation plan for the city of Enid. Is that you, Mike?
Have it. Do I need to read it? Do I need to read that? Okay. Is this the official copy? Okay. Basically what this is, the multi-hazard mitigation plan.
Mike, please speak into the mic. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry. This resolution to adopt this plan, the multi-hazard mitigation plan, It's a plan that basically identifies all the hazards in Garfield County. It includes the city of Enid, all the other jurisdictions, and the schools here in Garfield County. And our plan expired, the county plan expired. I've worked 4.5 years to get this thing up and going. It's been approved by FEMA. It's just basically ready to be approved by us to be a part of this. What this will allow for the city is if we have projects where mitigation is involved, we can apply for mitigation funds from the state through this plan. And that's basically the main gist of the
Make a motion.
mitigation plan.
Second.
Motion by Rodney, second by Tammy. Further discussion?
I have a question. Have we seen this plan?
No, not yet. I did not send a copy of this to you all, but I can send you a link where you can go to it and look through it and even download it. It's just, it won't be complete until we get all the resolutions into the
I
plan.
was just trying to figure out how we could adopt a plan we haven't seen.
It seems backwards, doesn't it?
Well, it just seems a little peculiar to me.
Well, if you guys would like, you feel free to table it. We can bring it back. I know we were just trying to collect the resolutions. Mike, you need a resolution from the city. It's also, you need one from Garfield County and various surrounding.
Right. I've got all but 8 back now, so.
Certainly we can, if you want to table it, we'll bring it back and.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we table it. I just can't understand why we would, approve a plan that or adopt a plan that we haven't seen. So I will make a motion that we table this item.
Second.
Didn't we already have a motion?
Oh, sorry.
The motion is on the table.
Well, that doesn't slow me.
Have to renege. Tell me what that means.
Rodney, do you want to amend your motion?
I guess I'll have to.
You don't have to, certainly. You are welcome to do whatever your heart
I
desires.
personally think we ought to just move forward with it. It's not going to
The
be.
resolution is just considering it. It's not necessarily voting for the approval of.
It says consider a resolution adopting.
Adopting.
But when you're doing things like that, you have to, it helps you to have the resolutions from the cities to get it to the next level, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, but how can we?
Hold up his process.
I just hate to adopt something I haven't seen.
I'm just gonna leave it where it's at. You guys vote no if you don't want to do it.
Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 5-2. Item 8.4, consider an agreement with the Oklahoma Department of Transportation, ODOT.
Thank you.
I have to read the whole thing. For the roadway and trail improvement project on Willow Road, project number R-0303A, authorizing a $100,000 contract time incentive option and authorizing the payment of the city's local share of the project in the amount of $1,906,000.54.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by David, second by Tammy. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0.
We never get to hear from Jamara, guys.
Jamara, that was a good report. Sorry to have to cut you off, but I have to do that. I have to read it, I'm sorry.
What's that? That's right.
Item 9, consent items.
Mayor,
Aaron,
I'd like
help
to
me, which one are we gonna pull?
I'd like to remove number 9.10, please. And I would make a motion to approve all other items on the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Garriott, second by Rodney. Did you get all that? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0.
I know everybody's probably looking at me on 9.10. I think I would like to consider approving the tort claim for Paul Thomas. Andrea, I don't know if that's really even possible, but I thought it might be worthy of conversation in an open forum.
You can do it. mean, you can make that motion and it could be voted on. The city is under no obligation to make the payment for a few reasons. OMAG has looked at it twice and has not found any liability on the part of the city, either because they just couldn't find the liability, or because it wasn't proven. And that's an important part of it, is that it wasn't proven. Also, we are well past the statute of limitations on this tort claim. And for a tort claim to be considered a second time, even by OMAG, is something that's extremely unusual. But they did look at it again. They stood by their original determination. And it's not something I would recommend, but you can obviously make the motion. So.
I tend to usually follow your recommendation, so.
Aaron, I didn't hear you.
I said that I'll follow her recommendation, and I'll vote in favor of, or I will move to deny the tort claim.
Second.
I'd still like to make a comment, though. I would like to, nice if this individual would have been here and kind of give us some better dates, because I'm not for sure if we know when it broke, I mean, we know when it broke down, but why it was not realized to January. I have a hard time believing it took them that many months to find out it was broke. That maybe was the homeowner's problem. I think this could have probably worked out better in their situation if they'd have came forward sooner and then be here tonight to discuss it better.
I think had the claim been pursued from the moment it was discovered and been pursued with the proper documentation, I think that we might have had a different story here. But the fact is we don't. The dates are crazy. You know, we know that our employees went out there in July. We know that the system wasn't fixed until January. No claim was made until May. And a decision was made in August, and then a request for reconsideration wasn't made until the following November. I mean, the claim was not pursued.
A lot of uncertainties here that we can't know answers to.
Well, you know, one thing, I would rather see us table this item, actually, and give the plaintiff an opportunity to come and make his case. I think, you know, to me, if we can't change the outcome, why are we even talking about it? Why is it on our agenda?
You can change the outcome. You do have that authority. It's not my recommendation, but you have that authority.
Well,
Yes.
you implied that maybe we couldn't do anything about it anyway.
No. You can.
Okay.
You absolutely can, yeah.
But you said the city is under no.
We are just, yeah, right. The city is under no obligation
But if the
to make a change to the original determination.
I see, okay.
I'm sorry, if the commission were to vote to not deny it, we could just pay it, right?
You could.
Okay, and I think that's probably what we did.
Well, like I say, I'm like Rodney. I would like to have more information about this case if the gentleman wanted to come and make a presentation or, you know, to plead his case. But if he doesn't want to do that, you know, then the outcome would remain the same. I would like to see him have that opportunity, and I guess he did if he wanted to come tonight, if he knew about this.
Well, and Ronnie had the opportunity and did make his case twice to the entity that we farmed this stuff out to. I mean,
Well,
there's a reason we have OMAG.
We don't know whether he just filled out a form or whether he actually.
The first time he filled out a form. The second time he gave much more detail in a letter, and that information was given to OMAG.
OMAG investigates too, don't they? They call people, they call city staff. I don't
They
know
do.
if they did in this case.
Yes.
They
Yes.
don't just see the form and make a decision.
Okay.
If they have questions, or they go through an investigative process.
They do.
I don't know what it is, but
Well, it's different on every claim. In this case, we sent the information on who was out there, what they did, what dates they were out there. So OMAG was aware of all those. This one is very unusual. We normally don't have this much conversation about a tort claim. It is very unusual on it, and I realize that. So, but the commission can, if it chooses, reconsider this claim. But it is legally under no obligation to do so.
My motion stands.
I will
Still
reread
second.
item 9.10 on the agenda. Consider and affirm the August 19, 2014 denial of tort claim, Thomas.
Is that the motion?
The motion is to deny the tort claim.
We're affirming the denial.
Affirming.
I'm sorry. Yes, affirming the denial. Thank you.
Whoa.
That's the motion.
Okay.
You removed.
The items, as it's written, is to consider and affirm the denial.
Yes.
Yes.
That was your motion.
That's my motion.
That was your
My second.
second. Let's vote.
Yep.
Please cast your vote. Motion carries 6-1. Item 10, we will now recess to convene as the Enid Municipal Authority. All of the trustees of the Enid Municipal Authority are in attendance at the regular meeting. Item 12, the Enid Municipal Authority regular meeting is now in session. Item 12.1, approval of claims in the amount of $134,845.31.
Move to approve.
Motion by Ben,
Second.
second by Aaron. Please cast your vote.
Ooh. Try it again.
Motion carries 7-0. We will now adjourn to convene as the Enid Economic Development Authority. Item 14, all of the trustees of the Enid Economic Development Authority are in attendance at the regular meeting. Item 15, the Enid Economic Development Authority regular meeting is now in session. Item 15.1, consider a resolution increasing the 2015-2016 fiscal financial plan for the Enid Economic Development Authority in the amount of $2,920,000.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ron, second by David. Further discussion? Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Item 16, we will now adjourn to convene as the Enid Public Transportation Authority. All of the trustees of the Enid Public Transportation Authority are in attendance at the regular meeting. Item 18, the Enid Public Transportation Authority regular meeting is now in session. Item 18.1, approval of claims in the amount of $982.97.
Move to approve.
Motion by Ben. Rodney.
I'm not in the mood to spend money today.
I'll second.
Second by David. Please cast your vote.
Not even $900.
That's over your limit. Motion carries 7-0. Item 19 will now adjourn to reconvene as the Enid City Commission. Under item 20, public discussion, we have one person signed up. Diane, please state your name and your address.
Diane Levesque of 1324 West Oak, also known as MLMP Station 2915. And I'm going to talk about those monarchs again, a new development and research that puts Enid right smack dab in the middle of the science on that. There's been a discrepancy in the numbers of monarchs on the northeast compared to Mexico's census. So now what they're scientists that are on both sides of the disagreement as to why that is are going to focus on the transitory period, and that is, well, Oklahoma as a state, including Enid, of course, is right in the pathway for that. And I will be registering my yard with multiple research entities about that. I also wanted to say that I'm relieved to see Gerald Gilbert back in his seat. War hero certainly is eminently qualified for the job that he sits in, and he almost got railroaded, which brings up the pattern of railroading from the, there was a city attorney, Carol Lehman, eminently qualified, got railroaded. And of course, on the past few times that I've showed up here, I demonstrated the fact that Wendy Quarles got railroaded and was replaced by someone her considerable inferior. And our war hero almost got railroaded, so we got a pattern here. So here's a small reminder that the right to work state is where you can hire anybody and fire anybody for any or no reasons, except for the ones that have been made illegal by federal statute and state statute. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 21, consider convening into executive session pursuant to 25 Oklahoma Statute 307C10 to discuss matters pertaining to economic development because an executive session is necessary to protect the confidentiality of the business and to convene into regular session to take any necessary action.
Move to approve.
Motion by Ben.
Second.
Ron, please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you for joining us for the Enid City Commission meeting. If you have any questions or comments, visit our website at enid.org.